Good morning, crime community. I'm here to continue reading Patriotism Unhinged by James Manning. Edward Lansdale. When President John F. Kennedy took office, Lansdale was appointed Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Operations. He was trouble for the CIA. He argued the CIA should work closely with exiles in Cuba, particularly those with middle-class professions who opposed Fulgencio Batista and had become disillusioned with Fidel Castro because of his betrayal of the democratic process. Lansdale was opposed to the Bay of Pigs operation because he knew that it would not trigger a popular uprising against Castro. Kennedy respected Lansdale's advice and selected him to become the project leader of Operation Mongoose. Over 400 CIA agents employed full-time on the project, but instead Richard Bissell decided to arrange the assassination of Fidel Castro. In September 1960, Bissell and Allen W. Dulles, the director of the CIA, initiated talks with two leading figures in the mafia, Johnny Roselli and Sam Giancana. Later, other crime bosses such as Carlos Marcello, Santos Trafficani, and Mayor Lansky became involved in the plot against Castro. Lansdale was involved in the assassination of the Diem brothers in Vietnam about 3 or 4 weeks before Kennedy. He had not taken a shot, but he was there and unfortunately wasn't smart enough not to get his picture taken. There was a famous picture of these three drunk tramps. Lansdale was wearing a big ring, perhaps the West Point ring. Generals who saw the picture picked him out immediately and said, "That's Lansdale." So Lansdale was there and likely one of the people in the charges of operations. Charles Harrelson. Charles Harrelson was a civilian hitman who worked for the CIA and for anybody who would pay him. He was the father of actor Woody Harrelson. Yeah, and Cheers. I worked Cheers about 3 times. Harrelson was born in Huntsville, Texas in 1939, same year as Gone with the Wind. After leaving school, Harrelson moved to California, where he eventually became an encyclopedia salesman. He later turned to crime and in 1960 was convicted of armed robbery. In their book, The Man in the Grassy Knoll, John R. Craig and Phillips A. Rogers claimed that Harrelson and Charles Rogers were the two gunmen behind the picket fence on the grassy knoll and were involved in the JFK assassination. Harrelson, Rogers, and Chauncey Holt were the three tramps arrested in Daley Plaza on November 22, 1963. In 1992, that the Dallas Police Department determined the three tramps were Gus Abrams, John F. Gedney, and Harold Doyle. CIA set up to conceal the truth. In 1968, Harrelson was convicted of the murder of businessman Sam DiGelia in a contract killing in South Texas and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. But with good time off and good behavior, he was free in 5 years. In 1979, Harrelson had paid $250,000 by drug dealers to assassinate the federal judge John H. Wood. On May 29, 1979, Wood was shot dead as he left his Alamo Heights downhouse. Wood was known as Maximum John for the harsh sentences for drug traffickers. He was the first federal judge murdered in the 20th century. When Harrelson was arrested, he confessed to being one of the gunmen who killed President Kennedy. He later withdrew that confession, yet he was eventually convicted of the murder of Wood and received 2 life sentences. In 1988, Harrelson told Nigel Turner, the producer of The Men Who Killed Kennedy, that on November 22, 1963, at 12:30 p.m., I was at the restaurant in Houston, Texas, having lunch with a friend. He also told Turner that he would not have suspected such a contract to kill Kennedy. He knew that if he had, he would have ended up, like Lee Harvey Oswald, being killed by the mafia. So we're going to end that today with other witnesses tomorrow. And I'm going to read one more book out of Robert Groden's The Killing of the President. Something called Billy Nolan Lovelady. In Ike Altogens, Altgens, fifth photograph, there is a man standing on the doorway of the book depository. His extraordinary likeness to Lee Harvey Oswald is uncanny. If Oswald was standing on the doorway, how could he have been in the sixth floor sniper's nest firing upon the motorcade? Federal investigators later claimed that the man in the doorway was book depository employee Bill Lovelady. Although earlier research has indicated that the man in the doorway was Oswald, my work with the House Assassination Committee produced evidence to the contrary. So we're going to leave that tomorrow. Go on to the Umbrella Man. So you think there's any truth on what I'm saying here? Please like and subscribe and have a nice day.